Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. DOS here. Welcome back to the next tier list. Hopefully everyone's been having a good summer so far, or at least as good as it can be. Today we're moving on to the Cranky villagers. Now Cranky has some pretty good villagers in them. I already know a few, and I've had a few on my island already. So this is going to be interesting. Again, I just want to preface, this tier list is completely my opinion. It's completely okay if you have your own favorites and you have your own, like, different rankings for these villagers, but this is just for me. Let me know in the comments down below, who are your S tier Cranky villagers? I do want to remind everyone, very soon, once these tier lists are done, I will be doing a hunt video again. I'm looking forward to that. I want to try to get my my Egyptian queen Anka. Also, I was thinking of maybe starting a let's play some other games. I bought Monster Prom not that long ago when it was on sale for the Steam Summer Sale, and I've never played it, so I'm thinking of maybe recording myself playing Monster Prom and checking it out. Don't worry, if I do, that won't take up Monday's uploads. That'll probably just go up sometime during the week that decides to happen. But if you'd like to know whenever I post something that's not in my schedule, hit the bell so you can get notified when I upload. But regardless, let's get into this tier list. So we're starting off with Admiral the Bird. I think Admiral's gonna be a C tier. I don't like his face. I don't like the weird look that he has. I do like his colors, but that's about it. He's a very basic villager. Also, I'm gonna try to do this quickly, because I don't want this to go for like 40 minutes. I want this to be a much faster tier list, because there's a lot of villagers in this. Anyway, up next is Angus. I kind of like the slight gimmick with Angus. He's wearing a flame shirt basically, and then like his name's Angus. It's like beef. He's a bull, so kind of makes sense. I do like Angus's face. I think the proportions work very well, so I think because of that, Angus is a B. Next up we have Apollo. I actually found Apollo on my first ever island, just going out and onto islands when I started the game. Apollo, I believe, was the first villagers I found, and then I ended up giving I didn't know how to trade villagers, so because of my mistake I ended up just giving Apollo to someone on Ukazan. But I really like Apollo. I think Apollo is a solid A tier. He's not super special enough to qualify him to be an S tier, but he's a really clean design. He's basically a bald eagle with just a leather jacket and everything. It's a very clean design, very pleasing to the eye, so I think Apollo is a solid A tier. Next up we have Avery the Eagle. Avery's got a much more unique design. However, I don't like the color palette. I think the color palette's just a bit too muddy and dark. Maybe if the shirt had a bit more color to it, it would have made Avery a bit better. I mean, obviously you can change the shirt and outfits that your villagers wear, but for base, for what they come with, it's pretty good, but not the best. Plus, I'm not a huge fan of the eyes, so I'm gonna give Avery a B tier. Next up, we have Boris the Pig. I actually think Boris looks pretty good. The proportions are really nice. I like the teeth. The teeth add a bit more to the proportions. The color palette's pretty nice as well. For Pig, there's nothing super bad about Boris, so I think Boris is going to be a solid B as well. Next up we have Boyd the Gorilla. I don't like the face. The eyes are way too small. I don't like the color of the cheeks. I do like his color palette for his fur and everything, but I think he's going to be a C tier as well. He's not super pleasing to me. Next up we have Bruce the Deer. I actually really like Bruce's design. I like the colors, I like the markings, I like the antlers, and I like the outfit that he has. I think Bruce is a pretty solid design. I think he's going to be an A tier. Nothing super good, but nothing like that's mediocre or bad. Next up, we have Butch the Dog. I actually really like Butch the Dog. I love the color palette for it. I like his facial expression and the proportions. I think that's super nice. So I think he's gonna be an A tier as well. There might be a lot of A tiers because there's a lot of Cranky villagers I actually really like. Next up, we have Buzz the Eagle. I do like Buzz's color palette. It's like a nice caramel white. I don't like his how angry he looks, but because of that color palette, Buzz is gonna be a B tier. Next up, we have Camo Frog, the frog. Kind of a lazy name for this, but I do like the camouflage frog. The eyes are a nice size for the frog. The mouth makes it a lot easier to fill out the proportions since it's a bigger mouth, just a line. I think Camo Frog is gonna be. I think he's gonna be a B tier, a very low B tier though, almost C, just because there's nothing super special about Camo Frog, but there's nothing really bad about him either. Next up, we have Caesar the gorilla. I don't like the face. Like the actual color palette's fine, and I like the mustache with the little goatee. I don't like the eyes. If the eyes were just a bit bigger, I think it'd be better. I'm gonna have to put Caesar with his gorilla brother in C. Next up, we have Chief the Wolf. I love wolves. I think wolves are probably my favorite type of villager. However, Chief looks like kind of an asshole, kind of a dick with his design. I'm not a huge fan of the eyes. The color palette's pretty nice, but I don't like the pink in his ears, and I don't like the outfit. I like how they match the pink scarf with his ears, but meh. Chief is gonna go into B tier for me. Next up, we have Chao the bear, the pink panda. I'm not a huge fan of Chao. He moved into my island a few months ago, and I did not like him. However, he's got some decent proportions in his face, and his color palette does work. Because of that, I'm going to put him as a C tier. If he had a much weirder color palette, he'd be D tier. But I think Chao is a good C tier. Next up, we have Croak, the frog. Croak is a very unique looking frog, so he gets some bonus points for that. I do like how his eyes look, but I don't like what's going on around his mouth. But because of the uniqueness of it, he's gonna go into B. But because of how I don't like how this looks around his mouth, it's gonna keep him at B. If his mouth was better planned out, stuff like that, I would have put it at A. Next up, we have Kurt the bear. I actually kind of like Kurt. I like the design of it. I think the face with the big Neanderthal brow and everything works really well with how the features are in his face. Like the pattern around his mouth makes it look like it's like a mustache or something like that, or like a beard. I like the bandages on his face. I think he's a pretty decent design. I think he's a solid B tier. Except we have Sid, the elephant. Sid's interesting. Sid's a very interesting color for an elephant with interesting hair, but I don't like Sid's eyes. I don't like how wide and closed they are. The color palette's interesting, it's unique. It makes me like Sid quite a bit, but I don't like his eyes. And I will say just the color palette just clashes a lot. And this is his base outfit, and it just doesn't match really at all. Because of that, Sid's gonna go at a C tier, just because there's just too much not working for me. It's just something about the color palette on an elephant that makes it look off. I like it. I like how different it is, but it doesn't work for me personally. But he would be a very high C tier though. Next up, we have Serrano the Ant. I think I've met Serrano on my hunts before. I don't like the color palette mixture I don't like the eyes. I don't like the eyebrows. There's just not enough working for me. Because of that, there's not really anything I like about Serrano. And so because of that, it's going to have to be a D tier. I'm going to be honest though, there's a lot of good looking villagers in the Cranky personality type. So that's why it's been so long for us to have a D tier. But I think there's just not anything that's appealing to me with Serrano. And because of that, he has to go into D tier. Next up we have Dell. So Dell's kind of like a plane with his head, which I kind of like. It's got that bit of a gimmick. His color palette actually kind of works with the like dark bluish purple with gray tones and stuff like that, and like the weird like reddish orange type of skin color. I don't like the eyes on him. The eyes don't really work. Color palette and the very minor gimmick kind of work for me, but there's nothing more that I can say about it, so he's gonna have to be a C tier. I'm sorry. Next up we have Dolby the Wolf. One of the only like elderly like villagers that you can have. I love how Dolby looks. He very much works for the Cranky personality type. I think that's perfect. I do like his color palette. It's very like pleasing. It's like a nice shade of like greenish gray with some darker grays, some like normal like peach, like pinkish peachish colors in his ears. I like little details with all the wrinkles and stuff like that. I really like Dolby because of his uniqueness of him being like a grandpa and stuff like that. I'm gonna have to put him at A tier. A lot of stuff in his design just works, and this look itself really works for the personality type. A lot of these villagers don't typically work for the personality types that they're in, but I think Dolby just really does work. Next up we have Elvis. I don't like lions in general. I think lions are just not good looking. Elvis kind of works. His eyes are a bit small, but it kind of gets counterbalanced with his scars. He's got the typical lion coloring. I think I'll put him at C tier. He's okay. He's not horrible, but he's not someone I would take. Next up we have Fang. I really like Fang's color palette. A nice like grayish, like a purplish gray with some whites, some deeper purple, like plum purples in the ear. I love the eyes. They work really well. The coloring is really nice. I like Fang a lot. I think Fang is going to be a solid A tier as well. Just so much working with the design that I really like. Next up we have Frank the Eagle. I actually really like Frank. I think Frank is a really cool color palette and design. He's like one of the tropical birds, essentially. I like it a lot. I like the uniqueness around his eyes and everything. Because of how unique he is, he's gonna have to be an A tier as well. It works. It works. It's not super out there. It's not super weird. I really like it. Next up we have Gaston, the rabbit. I actually kind of like Gaston's design. The color palette's a bit odd. We've seen this color palette before with the blue and the yellow, but I do like the thick mustache. It's kind of something you wouldn't really expect on a rabbit. And the thick mustache works with the eye type and shape and the eyebrow and stuff like that. Because of that, I think I'm going to have to give Gaston a low B tier. He would have been a higher B tier, like an A tier, if his color palette was a bit more pleasing, but I think it works. Oh, these two are actually reversed. So we have Grizzly next, the bear. Actually, no, it should be Gonzo. Yeah. My apologies. The list I'm looking at to see the names, it's like not super in order, but we have Gonzo the koala. Color palette's okay. The nose I don't like the color of. I hate the eye shape. The eyebrows are fine, but it's a weird mixture for a koala. It could have been a lot better. Because of that, I'm gonna have to give it a D. A high D though. It's almost a C. If the color of the nose was different, it would have been a C. I could have gotten past like the eye the eye size to have put it to a C, but I don't enjoy it. Next up we have Grizzly. Grizzly is an interesting color palette. It's like a very dark greenish brown with some like yellow eyes. I like the eye shape. The proportions are really nice. The coloring works with his eye color. Doesn't really work with everything else. However, I think I'm gonna have to give Grizzly a C. I'm not a huge fan of the color palette. The facial features are like really good. They work. They like really pair with each other really well. It's just the color palette just does not work for me. Except we have Groucho. The color palette works really well for me for Groucho, but the face design just doesn't. So it's like the opposite of Grizzly. I don't like the color palette, but the facial design is really nice, whereas with Groucho, the facial design just doesn't work for me, but I really like the color palette. I'm gonna have to give him a C as well because of that, because it's basically the opposite. It works and doesn't work. Next up we have Gruff. I hate Gruff's color palette. His facial features are fine, I think they work really well, but his color palette just is not good enough for me. Because of that, it's gonna have to go into C tier for the same reasoning as for these. Next up we have Humphrey the hamster. D tier. I don't like the color palette. I don't like the proportions in his face. I don't like the design choices they took. I think it's just really bad. And after that we have Harry the hippo. Another D tier. I don't like this weird like mustache beard thing. It looks really bad. The color palette's just not good as well. He looks like someone pissed on him. I don't like it. He's not a pleasing looking hippo. Next up we have Hopper the penguin. So this is a unique penguin. I don't think there's any other penguin that's this type of penguin. I actually really like Hopper. I think Hopper is a really nice design. It works. The red eyes work really well. Because there's no other really like other penguins that are like this breed of penguin, I'm putting it at A. I think Hopper's a really good good villager. Next up we have Ike the bear. Ike the bear is fine. His proportions are kind of weird in his face, but it's not super bad. The color palette's really good. I think I'd give Ike a B tier. He reminds me a lot of the rabbit right here, but I don't know. Kabuki the cat. For Cranky villagers, I think Kabuki is going to be the first S tier. I don't like cats, but I do like how unique Kabuki is. It's just such an interesting design. It's so unique, so different. The color palette really works. The only thing that kind of throws me off is the eyes, how it's yellow and blue. But regardless, like there's just so much working with Kabuki, so much uniqueness, so much special like design choices for Kabuki that it's an S tier for Cranky. I think just Kabuki looks so good. Next up we have Knox, the night chicken. I've met Knox a lot during my animal hunts. Knox is a solid S tier because of the unique design that he's a freaking chicken knight. That's so good. That's so cool. I think there's one other knight villager. I really like this. It's just super unique. He's a freaking knight. Like, come on. Like, no other villagers in this personality type are like that. I really like that. Next we have Limburg. Limburg the mouse is going to be a D. I hate the facial structure. I hate the design. I hate this weird like green like facial hair thing around. I don't like it. Next up we have Lobo. So I really like Lobo's color palette, but I don't like his eyes. I think his eyes are way too big. The coloring's fine, but the eyes are just way too big for my taste. Because of that, Lobo's going to be a solid B tier. But I do like the color palette on him. The eyes are just what kill me. Next up we have Monty the monkey. I actually like Monty's color palette. I just don't like his eyes. Because of that, I think Monty's going to be a C tier. It's not a bold color palette choice. and the eyes just kind of kill it for me. It's not like the Frogger here, where it's a very bold choice of design, but the eyes kill it for me. Actually, no, the eyes are even good. The face is just because of for me. It's just nothing bold. I guess I should. It's more of a comparison to the eagle, where the eagle's design choice right here is very, very like bold and unique, but the eyes are what kind of make it meh for me. Whereas with Monty here, the color palette is just safe, and the eyes just don't do it. Next up, we have Murphy, the cub. I actually really like Murphy. I think the Brock facial design works really well. The color palette's just really nice. It's a mint green with like a grass green. I think it works really well. I think honestly, I think Murphy would be an A tier. I think Murphy works really well. It's an interesting design for a cub. I'll give it that. But I think just Murphy looks really good. Next up, we have Octavian, the octopus. Octavian is absolutely an S tier for Cranky. I didn't want to take Octavian, even though I found him like 10 times during my Audi hunt, which is ridiculous. I think Octavian's a really good Cranky villager. I mean, obviously he's one of the 3 octopi. Kind of makes him, it kind of boosts his tier ranking up a bit. If they add like a ton more octopi, he might go down depending on what design choices they do. But like, it works. He's a Cranky villager with a very like sourpussed face, a bright red, which kind of works for his anger, stuff like that. I think it works. I think Octavian works for his personality type, for his species. I think it works. Next up, we have Pee-wee the gorilla. I actually really like this color palette. It's very close to like a typical gorilla color. I like the face a lot for Pee-wee. Pee-wee's a really good villager. I'm going to give him a B tier. One of the few gorillas that I'm actually fine with. Like, I think just a lot of stuff works with it, but like the color palette's just a bit too safe. If it was just a more of a pleasing color palette, something that was a little bit different, then I think he'd be like a low A. But Pee-wee's really good. I really like Pee-wee. Next up, we have Rasher the pig. I actually like Rasher a lot. I think Rasher is going to be a B tier as well with his pig brethren. I think the color palette works. It works with being a Cranky villager. I like the scar on his face. The eyes work really well with the whole like idea of what Rasher is. I think it's really good. Next up, we have Ricky, the squirrel. I think Ricky's going to be a D tier, to be honest. I don't like the face at all. I don't like the eyebrows. I don't like the mouth. I don't like the color palette choice with the weird blue and like cream color. There's just nothing working for me here. Like, the only thing I like is just the cream color. That's it, but I don't like how it's paired with the blue. I hate the face. It's just so bad. And joining him in D tier is going to be Rizzo the Mouse. The color palette's okay, but I hate the face. I hate how small the eyes are. I'm not a huge fan of this whole, like, sack head thing. I don't like it. It just doesn't work. It looks so weird. It's just weird. Next up, we have Rocco the hippo. So I love Rocco's color palette. It's like a nice mint color palette. The eyes just would kill it for me. Because of that, it's going to be a C tier. I think Rocco's okay, but he's not super, super good. Next up, we have Rolf the tiger. We don't have a whole lot of tigers in Animal Crossing as far as I'm aware, but I do like Rolf quite a bit. He's a white tiger. White tigers were used to be my favorite animal. I do like Rolf quite a bit. The only thing I don't like is the eyes. But considering the facial structure of the white tiger, I think the eyes are fine. They're just not particularly my favorite, but they work relatively well. So I think Rolf's going to be a B tier. Next up, we have Rooney the Kangaroo. Not a huge fan of this color palette. I do like the eye. If it was a little bit bigger, it would be a bit better, but I don't like the weird brownish orange hair with the blue. I do like the blue, and I do like the brownish orange, but I don't like them together. Because the eye's a bit too small, and I'm not a huge fan of the color palette, I think it's going to be a C tier. Next up, we have Roscoe the horse, the evil horse. I actually like Roscoe quite a bit. I like how he's just a pure black horse with some grayish blue and with a huge red eye. If the eye was a little bit smaller, I'd like him a lot more. I think Roscoe's going to be a solid B tier. I think it's just the eye shape that just kills me a bit. If it was just a bit smaller, he'd be A tier. I do like Roscoe quite a lot. He's kind of horrifying to look at. Next up, we have Spike the Rhino. I do and I don't like Spike. The color palette's a bit meh, but I do like the scarring. I think the eyes kind of work. If it was just a tiny bit bigger, it'd work better. I think Spike is a solid C tier. I think he could be better, but he could be worse. And now we have Static. So I like the little gimmick with Static's fur. His little hair at the top looks like it's a lightning bolt. I do like the purple with the yellow and the blue separating it. I think that actually works really, really well. I like his facial structure. It works really well. It works well with the size of a squirrel head. I think it works really, really well. Because of that, I think Static's going to be a solid A tier. I think there's just too much that's working for him. Next up, we have T-Bone. I hate T-Bone's eyes. They're way too small and too close together. His color palette's okay, but I think he's going to be a C tier. He's just not... He's not appealing to me. Next up, we have Tom. I actually like Tom's color palette. His eyes kind of work with the mouth and everything, even though the eyes are just a bit weird. I think Tom's just going to be a B tier. There's nothing super special with him. The eyes are the only thing that are kind of like interesting with Tom, but like he's just middle of the road. Next up, we have Vic the Bowl. So he's kind of like a Viking. I like that gimmick. I'm not a huge fan of like the weird coloring on his face around his eyes and stuff like that. Everything else though is fine. I think the eyes are good size and spread out for a bull. The color for his eyes is really nice. I just don't like the coloring. If it was like a better like color palette on him, he would be an A tier, but he's gonna be a very high B. Next up, we have Vladimir the Cub. Not a fan of this facial like mix on this cub. If it was a bigger bear, I think it'd work better. Or just another animal in general, I think it'd work better. But I don't think it works all that well. I do like the pink, but I don't like the yellow that's going with him. I'm gonna have to give Vladimir a B. There's stuff that can make him a lot better, and stuff that can make him a lot worse. So he's middle of the road. Next up, we have Walt the Kangaroo. I really like Walt. For the personality of Cranky, I think Walt works really well. I like his the story behind his design. He's like kind of like a Yakuza. I'm gonna give him an A. His color palette's a bit bland, but the design choices for Walt really, really bring it up huge for me. I think it works really, really well. Plus, the personality type just fits this look perfectly. So he's got to be a higher tier for that. Second to last, we have Wart Junior. I get it. The frog has warts. Haha. Color palette's nice. I like it. But there's nothing really super interesting about him. Just that he has warts. I'm going to give Wart Junior a C, to be honest. There's just nothing super special about Wart. Nothing I super care about. The last one is Wolfgang. A really good looking wolf. A solid wolf. With a solid color palette. Solid eyes. Because of the color palette mix and everything, I'm going to have to give him... I'm going to give him an A. Just because I like the whole way that the face is. Like just the proportions are really good. The color palettes are really nice. The reason why he's not a B is because for this wolf, I don't like the eyes. They're too big for my taste, and for this wolf, I don't like the eye shape. And I don't like the pink in the ears. But for Wolfgang, those two are remedied. He's not a super special design, so he doesn't deserve S tier in my opinion, but he's a pretty good design. So there we go. Those are my cranky villagers in the tier list. So my S tier, as you can see, are Nox, Octavian, and Kabuki. I want to say Fubuki, but no, that's a VTuber. It's Kabuki. So Kabuki, Nox, and Octavian are my S tier for cranky. I really like their designs a ton, but A tier has some really good ones as well. Everyone in A tier, I would absolutely take on my island. I would. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that tier list for the cranky villagers. We're coming up to the end of these tier lists. There's a few left. Like I said, I'm leaving Peppy for last. I'm probably going to do a tier list of all the S tiers that I had. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Comment down below who your S ranks are for lazy. I mean, not lazy, for cranky, I should say. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. I do Animal Crossing related content every Monday, Ruby reactions every Friday, and some random uploads every now and again throughout the week. So, as always, guys, I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. Goodbye, everyone.